Hi, my name is Judie VanKooiman, and you're watching Life Issues. This month's show is Parents Helping Parents, and my guests are Lee and B. Chang. Welcome, both of you.
Hi. Thank you.
Lee, I'm going to start with you. How long have you been with Parents Helping Parents?
Since 1976.
Long time.
Yes.
Good for you.
Yeah.
All
I came to group that many years ago. I was a young mother and parent and having a great deal of difficulty.
Okay. And what was your professional background prior to that?
Well, before that I was managing rental property up in New Hampshire. And then we got moved to Rhode Island, and my ex decided he wanted to be an ex. And so suddenly I had 2 kids and no husband and no job. So it was kind of very scary.
Okay. Yeah, of course. So you mentioned prior that why you joined PHP. It was because you were you had 2 kids.
What happened is one day my daughter, who was not even a year old, started to cry, and I changed her. And then I fed her. Then I changed her again. And then I put her in a crib, and she wouldn't stop crying. I mean, I think many mothers go through that. But at the time, it was like somebody else yelling at me. And so I picked her up. I tried to walk her. I tried to rock. I tried to do everything I could think of. And finally, like many frustrated parents, I yelled at a less than 1-year-old child, expecting them to mind. And she didn't, and I hit. And her mouth started bleeding, and I rushed her to the hospital. And I realized that what I'd done was a crime. I realized I was so scared that she was really hurt. I love my son and my daughter, but anyways, they wrapped her up. Now this is 1976, so this is long before any Department of Children or Families or anything. And they wrapped her up in a blanket and sent me home with her. And I got home, and I knew I could hurt her again, so I carried her upstairs, I put her in her crib, I came downstairs, and I knew I needed help. So I called my minister, and I've never forgotten. He said it really wasn't in his province, just the word. So I hung up, and then I thought, well, I could call the police, but then they'd take my kids, and I loved my kids. So I said I must be crazy, so I called the Department of Mental Health, and I was very lucky to get a person who, on the end of the line, talked to me, let me vent, got me to the point where they said, you know, we hear you, and we'd like to send somebody out. And of course, I wouldn't give them my whole name, scared of getting arrested, of course.
Right.
So instead, I gave them my address. When you're under stress, you do some very strange things. A social worker came out from the Rhode Island Department of Mental Health. She sat, we talked. My son came home from school, and then she said, I know a group, and I think you'd be perfect there. They can help you. And she put me in contact with the facilitator for a group in Rhode Island. And I went to my first chapter meeting, and I cried for a whole hour. But there were people there that understood.
Some people have to know that there is always help somewhere for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Good. I'm glad. So, B, how long have you been with PHP?
Oh, compared to Lee, I'm really brand new. I just joined last year. Yeah, so I was trained in the beginning of the year, and then I started to be a facilitator for a group in Newton in July.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
Congratulations. And what was your professional background prior to that?
So I was doing research, and for like more than 30 years, and so my career is I was in academia career, and then so what I did is with like a number, not really with people much, and I have psychology background, but I kept moving to do more data and analysis and research. And I was at the point I feel like I want to have more contact with people. So I started looking for volunteer opportunity, and I found Parents Helping Parents, and I applied, and then I quickly got an interview and then got trained, and I would just start doing it. Yeah.
So that's why you joined Php?
Yeah, because I feel, I want to have a kind of more fulfilling kind of a life, and what I was doing in the beginning, when I was doing research, was good because I wanted to prove to people. I actually was, at one point, I was doing my embodied medicine research, and so teaching people to do meditation and acupuncture. I mean, we do acupuncture to help patients, and also study the relationship between spirituality and health. So I was very devoted to that, and we found good results. But then after a while, I feel like I just want to be able to have a direct impact on people and talking to people, and that's how I got into this. So it's been pretty rewarding.
Yeah, it sounds like it for
Yeah.
both of you. That's good. Lee, what is Parents Helping Parents?
Parents Helping Parents is a 501c3 charity. We were formed to prevent child abuse, and we're an organization that is unique in that it's a professional and parent partnership. Its basic belief is that parents have their own best answers, but sometimes they need some help bringing it out, and to help parents grow. And so it started a long time ago, obviously, and it was started by a parent and a mental health professional in California, and then we had some people here that got interested in it. But it's unique because we don't have a curriculum, but the groups can have a curriculum if they so decide. It's putting power and choice back into parents' hands, parents that feel they don't have any. If you're involved with DCF, Department of Children and Families, you don't feel you have any power. Somebody else is telling you what to do. So getting a choice to attend, getting a choice of options that you can choose that will work for you. Because if there was a perfect parenting recipe, okay, we wouldn't have any problems in the world, would we? Because every kid would be raised with love and affection and the teaching. But circumstances change in life.
Exactly.
And when those circumstances change, we're not necessarily prepared for it. Or on the other hand, we could have grown up in a family that had abuse in it. And at one time when we first started, we really did only want parents who had acknowledged that they had abused their kids. And I can still remember the conversations we had as parents and professionals doing the bylaws, getting organized. And what it turned out is that any parent is welcome in our group. If you're stressed, if you're unhappy, if things aren't going right, if things are going right, but you're so petrified they're change that you're holding too tight to your kids, all parents are welcome. The idea is to stop abuse before it starts, if you already have bad behavior patterns, and that's what abuse is. When I started out, I was a loving parent, hugging, kissing, and always took the time to explain and stuff. And then as pressure mounted, it became easier to yell. After yelling, if that doesn't work, and we all know it sometimes doesn't, then it was easier to swat. And it was just a swat. It wasn't a bash or anything. But the swats become harder. And so we're for parents under stress, frustrated, tired.
That's understandable, yes. Yes. And Lee, when was it established?
We actually incorporated in 1979, and I was one of the parent signers of the incorporation papers. I'm very proud of that. Did you want to know how it came into?
Well, why did Mike Turner and Joan Wheeler want to start this organization?
Actually, I had brought a thing that Mike wrote, and so I'd reread it before I came here. Mike was the head of Parents and Children's Services in Boston, and Joan Wheeler was a nurse in Children's Hospital, and she volunteered with Mike. And they were doing the parental stress line at the time. They'd started that because they wanted parents to be able, and I should have mentioned that when I said what PHP was. We also have the parental stress line, which is 24 hours. Right. So. So parents could call at 2 in the morning or whatever. Well, Mike became aware through Joan of a woman who had come into Children's with her baby at least 30 times through the emergency room, questioning why the baby wasn't sleeping, questioning why they weren't eating. And finally, the woman brought the child in, and it was severely injured. And he and Joan were talking and realized if somebody had been paying attention and gotten help, maybe that could have been prevented. So they did some research, and they found Parents Anonymous out in California. And Leonard Lieber, who's a professional, and Jolly Kay, the parent. Jolly had been abused as a child. She was an abusive parent. She'd been in and out of different places. Her kids had been taken away from her and given back. Leonard said to her finally one day, well, what do you think would help? If I could talk to other parents who feel like I do. And he said, well, then why don't you start a group? And so the two of them did. And Mike and Joan went to hear Jolly and Leonard speak, and they started the first group in Boston.
Cool, good. And is PHP a national organization?
So it's right now it's not, and actually the other day we have a discussion group. We're talking about we probably should, and Lee mentioned about this parental stress line, and that one actually answer phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and call can come from all over the country. Oh, so in that sense, it is a national organization, right. Yeah. But I think the PHP doesn't really get funding nationally. They can only apply funding locally, and and that is for the stress line. But for there are two different program, PHP, one is the stress line, and one is the parent support group. And parent support group, of course, because it's in person, so it's only locally in Massachusetts.
Right. And to explain, Parents Anonymous in California and a number of the groups, we were all associated for a long time. And then there was a difference of opinion, mostly about parents truly being listened to. Sometimes in a nonprofit or any organization, things start, it's easier to avoid having to train parents to be a speaker or bring them along so that they can do outreach, so they can grow. And So Circle of Parents, which is a national organization, split from Parents Anonymous, and PHP is a member of the Circle of Parents. We haven't done a lot of work with them recently, but that's because we're understaffed, but we hope to get more involved. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, and B, what was the concept to start the group?
So the concept is that this is a so-called parents helping parents. So there is the belief that parents can empower themselves, and so by providing a safe, I think this is speaking about parent support group. So provide a safe environment, and everything talk in the group, of course, is confidential. And so just by talking, sharing, and you can empower each parent and to kind of learn from each other and strengthen them to be parents. I think we probably want to avoid using the word saying for them to be a good parents. They kind of imply they are not good parents now.
Right, and most of the parents that come to group love their kids and want to be the best possible parents they can be.
Yeah. Right. So it's just that they have some issue or concern, and they don't know how to respond to their kids or when they cry, and so kind of share that and share their frustration, and then here are the parents, their successful coping skill. So it's kind of learning from each other.
And understanding that 3-year-olds are a lot like 16-year-olds. They don't want to hold your hand anymore. They want to be independent.
Right.
Yeah.
And B, what is Parent Helping Parents' value statement?
So the value is we keep talking, is like providing them a safe environment, and and we believe that of course good parenting is the best you can provide to kids. Every kids have the right to have a good parenting, and so that's the legacy for being a parent. And to be specific, how do we do that? Is we want to encourage parents or to reinforce that the fact that they even come and to talk about their ise, that is a strength to them. It's not a weakness. That's saying I don't know what to do, and just to praise them, say you acknowledge I have this difficulty and I want to learn from other parents, or I want to share with other parents. Right. Yeah, so that is the statement we tell parents. Yeah.
We do a lot of things in group going, all right, take your hand, raise it up, and pat yourself on the back. Because you accomplished a good thing. You did a good thing. Yep. Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. And Lee, what are the volunteer opportunities that PHP has?
Oh, the Parental Stress Line, we have different, it's staffed 24 hours a day with volunteers. So we have shifts, and we're always looking for volunteers willing to do that. And the Parental Stress Line is actually listening, encouraging the person at the other end. There's training that goes along with the stress line or for the groups, for the facilitators, that walks them through how to refer them to places or how to encourage them to find their own spot. So you can volunteer at the stress line. For the groups, you can be a facilitator. B is, I'm a facilitator now, a co-facilitator with another parent. So we have that, and we have the same leadership training for our parents who have grown and want to give back to the organization, just like that's why I stayed so involved. So there's that. And then we have our need for office volunteers. We always need people to answer the phones, shred documents, do filing, put the packages of resource material together and get it mailed out. So those are the three main.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize that facilitator is different from a therapist.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
people don't need to have a professional, a license or something
Right.
to volunteer.
Right.
Yeah, and that is a very good opportunity. Like that's what I did to
Right.
be trained to be a facilitator, and I'm hoping that they will help me to be able to know how to help people, how
Yeah.
to talk to people. Yeah.
And the parents grow so tremendously. When I started in I moved from Rhode Island to Mass, started in a group up here. I really had to hunt to find it. But my group took almost a year to get a steady people coming. But you know, by the end of our group, our first year, all of us were in school or working. That's the encouragement that we gave to each other. So,
It's good.
yeah.
That's good. Right. And B, how many support groups are there in Massachusetts?
So we have, it's all over the Massachusetts. So it's around 20 parent support group. That is so-called open to public. So anybody who wants to come, and it can be anything. I mean, it can be as difficult as the kids got taken away by DCF, or it can be just, I feel like my son just say something back to me, and I don't know how to deal with it. It gets me really upset. So it can be a wide variety, a
The
range.
gamut,
Yeah,
right.
so from varies every day, every parent can encounter to something quite difficult to deal with. And so those are open to parents and anybody. And it's like in Metro Boston and Western Boston, Massachusetts, Northeast, Southeast, and so everywhere you can think of. And so on the website of the Parent Helping Parents, there's a list of all the groups and with the facilitators' contact information. So if anybody is interested in finding
We
a group.
particularly wanted to mention that we have a group in Malden that is open and functioning. And we have another group that just started here in Winthrop. They're looking for a new location, but they are currently meeting. So one group meets on Monday, the Malden group, and the Winthrop group meets on Thursdays. And so if they want to be connected, they can just parentshelpingparents.org.
Right.
And they'll find everything they need.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we have about 10 to 12 group in prison. And I think there are a couple in women's shelter. Those are now open to public, of course. Yeah. So those actually, I mean, someone who was doing it, he was very successful. And yeah, so that is another, very special type
Very
of
good.
group. Yeah.
Right. And B, can both moms and dads join the support group?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody, they can bring even their brother, sister, I mean, the fathers, like the uncle of the kids, they can, if the uncle get involved in helping the child care, they come too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you-
anybody.
Oh, that's the other volunteer. The other volunteer position is the group. Some of the groups need childcare.
Oh, yeah, that's right,
Yeah,
childcare.
we want
Yeah.
to mention that.
There's a childcare
So that's another thing. If somebody has an interest in helping a group and by taking care of the kids, that really is a blessing. So
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
So the group I'm leading is in Newton, and Newton does provide childcare.
Oh, good. Nice. And Lee, we hear nowadays about grandparents raising their grandchildren. Can they join the PHP support group?
yes, we've had some groups that are strictly identified as grandparents raising grandchildren. We've had some fathers groups that are just for men. The groups, the uniqueness of Parents Helping Parents is the parents in the group get to decide. We once had a group of sexual abuse survivors, and they honestly felt that what they needed to talk about was specific. So they closed their group to deal with that. But yeah, anybody in a caregiving, child rearing, foster parents are encouraged to come.
Great. Okay. And Lee, if anyone has any questions about what we talked about here, can you please give us your contact info?
Again, for the parental stress line, it's 1-800-632-8188. I don't remember numbers anymore. And for everything else, they really should go to the website parentshelpingparents.org, and they'll see all of the different people. If
The
you
list
call
of the group,
right,
yeah.
and if they call the office, which they can get the number from the website, you want to speak to Claudia or Ellie. So
Okay.
when you call, they'll ask, and they have a directory, and it's Claudia or Ellie.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, but that's all the time that we have. Thank you both for all that you do for those in need. I'd love to hear your thoughts and suggestions. Please send them to lifeissuestv@gmail.org. And remember, live each day to the fullest and celebrate life.